live, guys. Welcome to the podcast.
We're live.
I'm Nima. This is Josh. No, but I was gonna say this guy, my homie in Brooklyn. He does a podcast. He does like a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Did like some artwork for it. And he like when I was staying at his place, I saw his like podcast setup.
Okay.
And it was like
taking some notes.
Yeah, I mean, not really.
How elaborate is it?
It there seemed to be like a lot of different pieces. He had like a really expensive mic and like a box thing that it plugged into. It seemed to be going into his computer. I'm pretty sure because I know the other guys are in the podcast. They're like all over the place. So I'm guessing there's some kind of amalgamation of this sort of audio recording hardware that he bought and like Zoom or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm not sure. I mean, let's give it a couple shots and then figure out. Let me try this shit on the TV and then see how the audio is really there. And I wonder if it's like, okay, we got the audio recording, like, well, like it's tolerable, but then how do we make it so it's like nice? Maybe the nice part comes with the nice mics. I don't know.
For sure. For sure, especially having one that's hanging off of one of these arms that connects to your desk or chair or whatever, because that way it's only picking up right here on you and it's not getting any of your shirt stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one of the benefits. It's interesting to watch as somebody like on stage pulls the mic away. It's really like you have to be right on it for it to be registering and transmitting or amplifying your voice. So it's really interesting that comedians can like pull away and shout into it and you get the effect of they're angry and they're elevated.
Right.
But it's not murder on the ears. So
yeah. And I'm sure like you get all like if you're singing, if you want to get certain effects, like that kind of like volume effect, you kind of like
exactly
back and forth.
Exactly. Into and out of the blur.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure they have their like certain people like it certain ways. So maybe some people like, they hold it close. So they kind of adjust the mic, pick up.
Depending on their style, their performing style.
There is like a difference between just sort of like talking and yelling and then also like performing on a mic. You know what I mean? It's different. There's something about it where you kind of have to check yourself a little bit more. The few times I've ever picked up a live mic.
Yeah. Is it hot? Is it scary when you pick up a live mic and like, oh God, everybody's listening to me only right now?
The thing is, like when you talk, your voice sounds a certain way in your head.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So when you hear yourself recorded, your voice sounds different to you. Kind of like that kind of freaks you out a little bit, or maybe not freak out, but you're like, oh, my voice doesn't sound that great.
Yeah, but that sounds stupid.
But
I don't sound like that.
So imagine that, but like as you're talking.
Because
so you're already like your mind's already like, what the fuck? That's my voice.
But how much of a delay is there when it's being amplified through speakers and then bounced back to you?
Like a nanosecond. It's not too much.
So it's not enough to trip you up.
I mean, I'm sure if you were like
already terribly anxious.
Like I've never picked up a mic in a stadium. I'm sure that's different.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
So
what'd you do? How did you celebrate Juneteenth?
I've been working. I have the day off, but I'm working.
Gotcha. Side gigs or the main job?
Side gigs.
Nice.
Yeah, it's weird. I've actually had like a whole bunch of meetings today, and I have another meeting later.
No kidding.
I just kind of like pushed. I was like, okay, I got Monday off. Let me just push a whole bunch of this shit onto Monday.
Okay.
And I just kind of like woke up today at like 10:30, 11, had like 2-hour meeting with one client, got off the phone, got on another 2-hour meeting with another client.
Wow.
And then I did some work like on those clients, and then I have another meeting tonight later. But that guy's in Egypt, so he's 10 hours ahead. So I was thinking about doing it like in the middle of the night, so that it'd be like morning time or like early after, like right before noon his time.
Yeah, I think best time to catch people in that 10-hour difference time zone is you're calling them first thing in the morning and it's their end of day. Because that 10-hour difference is difficult. Like you either have to catch them middle of the night to catch their morning.
Right.
But
that works for me because, night.
Speaking of that, Nima and I discussed when to do this podcast. Mondays are usually not when we're dropping new podcasts because Monday is Kill Tony Day. And I'm actually bummed out that I'm not watching it right now because it's Dave Attell and I think Jeff Ross.
Oh, damn. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. You got some heavy hitters today. I'm excited to go back and watch that.
I just saw Dave Attell in New York.
Exactly. That's why I was like, oh, Dave Attell. He's in my forebrain right now, whereas he wouldn't be because he hasn't been in the public eye for like 15 years.
Yeah, he's definitely a man in poor health.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's got that like permanent punch kind of thing going on, and so I don't think he's really trying to do anything like special. I do know that him and Jeff Ross have like a roast battle tag team thing. They do like road shows together and stuff like that. But
yeah. So he was in my forebrain because you had seen him last week or a week and a half ago, right?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah. We kind of kicked the can down the road today to Monday since Sunday was Father's Day. Got to do some family stuff. How was it with your family?
It's good. Took my family out to a dinner, which was fine. It was funny. So I guess my dad had told my sister that he had a gift card to Black Angus, and that we should
Black
go there.
Angus, prime steakhouse. Man, I can't remember the last time I went to Black Angus.
It was literally like, I'm usually like, I'm not picky or anything like that. I'm not like, I don't go to whatever.
I don't go to Black Angus.
I'll go
Fleming's
to
only.
Like I get down on some Applebee's or some cheese diets. Like I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's because you like designer food.
Yeah, but this is different.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a thing that you've talked about, and we should definitely have that conversation in here at some point. But we're already derailing from Father's Day, which was also derailed from Juneteenth. So I'm trying to keep track of all the places we're gonna go. Go for it.
The designer aspect that I like about fast food, the packaging design, even just like the food design, all that kind of stuff. That is like so much beyond the stratosphere when it comes to chain sit-down restaurants. Chain sit-down restaurants are like much less of an investment in making it. Food is definitely way more sloppy. You know what I mean?
Chain versus fast food.
Versus like you look at like the packaging and the delivery and the overall experience of eating a Big Mac. It's packaging designed by like artists. The food comes out the same every time, no matter where you are in the world. It's designed in a certain way for all the flavors to hit, and for it to, the whole experience, the whole just output of like a Big Mac compared to like Jack Daniel's, steak,
whiskey bourbon burger,
whiskey burger, can't even compare.
Yeah.
But regardless, what I will say. So anyway, we go to this Black Angus, and it's just terrible.
Oh really? Food is no way! I wouldn't have guessed.
And it's like I just came back from like New York, eating best food in the world, and all this shit.
Yeah.
And we
And
go
everything being novel, right?
Yeah.
Everything being a novel culinary experience.
And it's just like soggy ass mac and cheese.
Oh man.
Like the steak is like looks like I don't know. I was gonna say it looks like a cooked heart.
Oh yeah.
It's just like this looks like a piece of coal on like a empty ass plate. It's super fucking terrible.
Yeah.
But and everyone just has this like overall sense of like they don't want to say it, trying to enjoy the moment, still trying to enjoy the family dinner. Oh right, yeah, right. Exactly. It's Father's Day.
Not ruin it.
But you can just tell everybody just hates their food. It just thinks it's so bad.
Did you guys talk about it?
we talked about it later.
That's what I'm hoping.
We were able to keep somewhat of a conversation going during dinner, but you just see on their face, like as people were eating it, like
they're like, "Are you kidding me? How is this restaurant still in business?"
And it was packed. I mean, it was Father's Day, but it was like
everywhere was packed. Probably everywhere, I imagine. Yeah,
but it was like, it was t-shirts and jeans crowd. You know what I mean? Like nobody there was there because it was a nice place to go to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like pretty fucking expensive, regardless too.
You jumped the gun on me. I was about to say it's probably like the most affordable of like the dumpy, nice restaurants that you could go to, but it doesn't sound like it.
I mean, you're paying like at least $40 to $50 just for the steak.
Ooh.
Right? Like the cheapest thing there was the burger, which was 20
something, yeah.
But if you're ordering like a steak, you're going $30 to $40.
Yeah.
And then anything that's actually like, hey, like we're putting a little pizzazz on this.
Not London broil.
Right. like some sort of like surf and turf combo or like some sort of like mushroom blue cheese thing or whatever on top. I mean, it was like $50-$60, man. And I was like,
thank God for the Groupon.
But okay, so anyway, so he's like, all right, well, and so I do like the whole like ninja pay for it thing. Which is like you just like give the card to the waiter, like don't like ask anybody, you just kind of like before the check-in comes, you just like give it to him or whatever.
Gotcha.
But like before they do that, he like pulls out the gift card just to see how much money's on the gift card. And the fucking thing is for Outback.
Outback would have probably been better than whatever the fuck, Black Angus.
Dude,
I can't even remember the name of it.
Yeah, Black Angus.
Outback is like almost fast food of a steak place. It's kind of got a theme to it, rather than Black Angus is just like what is the logo for Black Angus? It's like a cowboy sitting over a coal fire, right?
Maybe.
Have you seen that? I can picture that.
But at least Outback has. What do you think's better?
What?
TGIFs
Outback or Black Angus?
Or Black Angus?
TGIFs. TGIFs is still relevant. Black Angus is like you gave up or like you're going with your grandparents because that's where they used to go when it was good 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Probably. I've
always heard of Black Angus, but that was probably the first time I've ever been to a Black Angus.
I think Black Angus was big in the 90s, like the 80s and 90s. And so that's probably why it still sits with people like, oh, Black Angus, that are now 70.
I gotta look up Black Angus real fast.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're still owned by the same company.
They probably got kicked off to Darden Restaurants or something, which owns.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like the restaurant conglomerate, right? Just let it swirl down the toilet, right?
Yeah. What you said? You said Anderson, right?
Black Angus? No, Darden. Darden. Darden Restaurants. I think
it's owned by Saga.
Okay. Saga.
And they bought them in 1972, so they've been owned by the same company since 1972.
Saga, like SAGA, like MAGA Saga.
Yeah.
So what does the S stand for? America Great Again. Shit. America's Great Again. It's S, comma, AGA.
I don't. Let me research this.
There you go. I went. There's this place in Woodland Hills in my neck of the woods.
But I think it's Stuart Anderson something.
Gotcha. Group of something. Anyway, I went to at El Camino High School. There on Sundays they do this big barbecue cookout in the parking lot as a fundraiser for the school. But it turns out it was the Jim's Market, which is like it's been there on Fallbrook in Woodland Hills for forever. And unfortunately, I've been to Jim's and I never really liked it. I don't think the meat that they stock is all that good. I don't think that their grilling is all that good. But I thought this was different. So I went up to the guy when we were getting in line and looking at the menu, we're about to pay. And I said, this is great. I drive by El Camino all the time on Sundays and I see you guys. I'm in the neighborhood. I'm happy to support the school. But my first time. And he says, oh, well, you might know us from, are you in the neighborhood? Yeah, from Jim's. And I was like, fuck. This is going to suck. And it didn't, it wasn't good. It didn't fail to suck.
Did you order before?
No, but I was already there and I was hungry.
Right.
And the whole idea was that I didn't want to end up in a restaurant for Father's Day. Like I wanted to be able to go somewhere, pick up something, go home instead of being stuck, with all the people giving up at Black Angus.
Yeah, no, that's a bad place to be. I highly discourage all people to go to Black Angus.
Black Angus is going to be sponsoring our next show because they have a lot of money to be spending on.
Get yourself a $60 steak at a shit restaurant. Not order the mac and cheese.
Yeah, I had mac and cheese also at this, driveway parking lot barbecue, and it was also not very good. And Hawaiian coleslaw, which is just coleslaw with a couple of pineapple chunks, also not very good.
That's awful.
Not very good at all.
I don't understand coleslaw.
Yeah, it's just like snotty cabbage.
Yeah, I don't know. The taste and everything. Like, who likes this?
I make a really good coleslaw, and the trick is to actually do it yourself, right? So you get fresh cabbage, and then you do a little bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of mustard, like the least amount possible, and then apple cider vinegar and salt and pepper. And that just it has a little kick. It's not just like blah.
Yeah, I have those ingredients. Could make that.
It's really good. I'll make it for Dude's Day if we ever do it. You're gonna have to have a conversation with Tony about that because every time I mention it to him, he says, "I'm hosting it."
What? I can hate that guy.
I know. So, anyway.
All right, I'll text you.
Yeah, might not be good. I think he's Midwest right now. He's in Nebraska this week. Anyway, so
the Hawaiians. Okay, yeah, no, sorry.
No,
I was gonna go back to Hawaiian food, but we should move on.
What about Hawaiian food? I
was gonna say they got macaroni salad down.
Yeah, I like Hawaiian pizza, but that's very polarizing. Me too.
I think the whole polarizing Hawaiian pizza thing is mostly just a meme.
Oh, okay. I think it's probably people that haven't had good Hawaiian pizza because the trick is to have some kind of spice in there. If it's just sweet from the pineapple, you have to have some kind of spice. I love jalapeno Hawaiian pizza.
Well, that's Indian pizza.
Oh, really?
Indian pizza is pineapple slices and jalapeno.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't like Hawaiian pizza. I like Indian pizza.
There you go. I like Hawaiian pizza, just like Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these are people that are, I think people just like to get a kick out of it. I think it's just like a meme.
So it's always just pairing of, what is it, heat and spice and salt and fat, something like that, right? Wasn't there a book about that? Mike always talks about that. How to yeah, Andrada.
Yeah. Well, that's so that there's those are the 4 different ways of cooking something. You can either add heat to it. You can either you can salt it. You can use citrus. Get yourself cooks things.
Yeah.
And then there's another one. Heat, salt, whatever. So this woman, she's a Persian woman actually. So she goes to all these different places where those are like the main forms of cooking things. And so she goes to Japan. Japan has like the most varied amounts of salt in the world. They have like hundreds, like 100 different kinds of salt. She goes to Mexico, citrus, because they use a lot of citrus in their cooking. And then like, so like Mexican cooking and Persian cooking are very similar, except for the spice part. They both use a lot.
They have different categories of spices. They both use a lot of spices, but they're just.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking like hot, like hot spicy or whatever.
Gotcha.
It's not I guess it's not as spicy, but they use a lot of the same kinds of ingredients and the same kinds of cooking techniques and stuff like that. So they have a lot of similarities between them. And then she goes to someplace else. I can look this up on my own Jamie right now.
Is this is the Persian Mexican analogous cooking like a latitude thing? They're just at similar latitudes?
I don't know.
Because I know that's a big part of it, right? What grows, and this is what you're going to work with.
Yeah, well, I think like the major sort of thing that ties them together is the use of citrus.
Yeah.
So I guess it would be like they both have a lot of citrus, you know what I mean? Like all this land out here in LA is all like citrus orchards and shit like that, you know what I mean? So
used to be. Now it's empty parking lots.
Yeah, it's Janis Joplin song.
Is that a Janis Joplin song?
Yeah.
That'll be our intro for this episode.
Put up a parking lot. The other one is fat.
Yeah.
Just look it up, but yeah.
Yeah. Hawaiian pizza. Moving on. So
well, the thing is, like the pizza is cooked. It's not being cooked. It's being cooked by heat. It's not being cooked by citrus.
Well, I meant spat. That's that's spice and fat at the same time. Spat.
Because ham is sweet too, right?
Ham is sweet and salty.
Yeah.
I think it's like savory. I think that's how it balances some ham can be sweet.
I mean, like most ham is sweet, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Meat.
Most ham is like glazed or something.
Right. And most of the time, like like Christmas dinner or Easter dinner or whatever, you get the ham. That's like it's very sweet. It's a sweet meat.
Right.
And so I feel like it's within that Venn diagram, you know what I mean? Like the cheese, you get the savoriness with the cheese, and then you have the sweetness of the pineapple.
And the acidity, that's what it is. Not citrus, acid. Acid, fat, salt.
Yeah.
And something else. That's what it is. Heat. Anyway.
But like I said, it is me. Yeah, we can move on.
We're going to be stuck on pizza. People are going to be like, stop talking about pizza. Stop talking. All the people that don't like pineapples in the first place, just thumbs down. Thumbs down.
Guys, whatever you guys feel about pizza, put in the comments. Let us know how you feel. You know, are you into sweet meat? You like the combination of savory with acidity? You know, let's get to the bottom.
What's your favorite combination? Where's your overlap in the Venn diagram of salty, fatty, acid, and heat. Not yours. I'm not asking you. I'm asking the comment section so that we can move on. Fuck.
Everyone's gonna say all of them. It's not a thing that you prefer over the other one.
I like spice. Spice is my thing. I want everything.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if I gave you like a plate of good food,
mm-hmm.
You know, you wouldn't be.
Yeah, but I'm gonna gravitate towards the spicy, not necessarily the creamy. I like creamy a little bit, but I'd rather have something hot, spicy, burn my mouth, tearing up by the end. That's what.
What about like bitter stuff like? Nah. What about
bitter? That's probably why I don't use much citrus in my cooking.
That's sour though.
True. Sour and bitter are pretty close cousins.
I would, yeah, I feel like they're.
I would lump those two together and say I don't like either of them.
I like bitter. I like bitter. Sour's a hard one to get over.
Actually, I liked the kimchi. We made kimchi street taco, not kimchi, Korean street tacos, which had kimchi, but that's also more acid. I like acid.
Isn't that like umami?
Okay, I like umami then.
I like umami too. Nice. Well, because they say like the tongue is
mushrooms umami, right?
I guess
mushroom.
Yeah.
Like I always cook my mushrooms with vinegar now, and so you get that kind of acid plus umami richness to it, which is good. I started to cook my mushrooms, cut them up, and then while I'm cooking other veggies, I let them marinate in the balsamic vinegar just for like 10 minutes, like 5-10 minutes, not that long. And then I put them in the pan and cook until it reduces. All the balsamic vinegar is evaporated, and then put whatever other veggies in there and just have it all kind of, because mushroom has all the flavor you need to take over and kind of lead the dish, right?
I think they're also very spongy. They soak up flavors like pretty well.
And they're not great without having something to soak into it. Otherwise you're just eating.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, some people probably like raw mushrooms. I don't.
I mean, I usually cook them with like a little bit of like vegetable oil,
and
then I like putting them into kind of like noodle dishes.
Okay.
So I usually put like some soy sauce on it as I'm cooking it up, and that usually like does the trick.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same. I mean, it's along those same lines, but that's obviously more Eastern versus more maybe Mediterranean.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I don't really like balsamic vinegar.
I love it.
Yeah, no, most people like it.
Apple cider vinegar, balsamic vinegar, love those.
Once in a while, I'll like it with like, when you like dip the bread in the oil. There's like some balsamic vinegar.
Has this much balsamic vinegar, and it has this much oil, right?
Yeah.
It's just enough. Because
balsamic vinegar, just enough to get the flavor, but
exactly,
usually I find it a little. Exactly.
Yeah. Stole the words right out of your mouth. Got him. Choking him. All right. So we were talking about Father's Day. We kicked the recording can to today, which is Juneteenth. And I was asking you about what you did for Juneteenth. You said you worked.
Yeah, a lot of working. What about yourself?
I also worked. And yesterday when I was talking to my brother, he obviously has Monday off because Juneteenth, national holiday. We'll get into some statistics and some facts about the holiday in a minute. And then he also has Wednesday off for like a mental health day or something like that. So he's like barely working this week. And I said, I think everybody except for Black people should have to work on Juneteenth.
Everybody except for Black people should work on Juneteenth. I mean, it's fair, kind of.
Juneteenth is the national holiday recognizing the effective enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation, which is the freeing of the slaves. Which, fun fact, June 19th, 1865, I believe, is when one of the generals came down to Galveston, Texas, and told all of the African Americans there, "You're free for real." But that was 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863.
Well, I mean, that's probably how long it took a message to get from
Exactly.
Washington, D.C. to Texas.
No. It was actually because the Civil War was still raging. So Lincoln signed this bill into law, but it was in the midst of the Civil War. And it wasn't until General Lee, right? Robert E. Lee, the Confederacy conceded defeat in 1865, 2.5 years later. And then a couple months after that, Lincoln got his guy down to Texas and said, "Y'all are free for real."
I'm sure like the guys who were like running slave or not running slaves, but had slaves were like, all right, let's just keep working.
Yeah, exactly. Come on,
let's
before this guy
just not
comes.
tell them what happened. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And then dude from Washington, from DC or New York or whatever, is like running around like, yo,
you guys didn't get the message.
Yeah,
check your email, asshole.
It's illegal now.
So yeah, I learned a little bit today. Somebody I was working with mentioned that it was 2.5 years later, so I went and looked it up and like looked at the dates, and I was like, oh, it's because they were still embroiled in conflict over which way the Union or the Confederacy would fall.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah. And it wasn't until 2021, after a year after all the Black Lives Matter, George Floyd death, that Biden signed it into law as an official national holiday, federal holiday. So this is only the third year that it's been celebrated. 2021, 22, 23, yeah.
Interesting. Feels like it's been around longer.
As a federal national holiday.
Okay.
Texas, I forget, it doesn't, the exact date that Texas was the first to recognize it. And then individual states recognized it. And then in 2021, after Black Lives Matter, is when Congress got their shit together and passed the law to make it a federal holiday. Which is why you had the day off, but still worked, and which is why I did not have the day off at all. I never get holidays off.
I guess it works well with schools too, because schools are already off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. I think it's I'm always down for more holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's this idea that in Europe they have more holidays than us.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have more. As like, because I work at my company, we hire people from Europe. We don't hire, like, not everywhere around the world. Although we do have some people in India, and they definitely have way less holidays than we do.
Mm-hmm.
I think in India they have like 3 holidays.
Wow.
I think in China they only have 2.
What
but we have about 2 or 3 more than Europe.
Europe. What's the duration of whatever national holidays are going on in India? I feel like when they have a holiday, it's more than just one day, though. Like it's like a whole week worth of.
They only get one day off.
Oh, gotcha.
There's one coming up on Thursday.
I'm probably just thinking of like festivals, and like not social, but like cultural events, rather than a national holiday.
Well, what's the difference?
Like when people go down to the Ganges and like prostrate themselves in the river and are connecting with their dead ancestors and stuff like that. Like that's like a pilgrimage to the Ganges is like for 2 weeks or something, rather than
yeah, but it's not like people
day off from work.
Those are people without jobs or whatever.
Fair.
Like if you work at a company, you're not getting that time off. They're not giving you 2 weeks off for that.
Right. This
I
is all very
mean,
uninformed. Me making a big guess based on having watched a few Bollywood movies.
and I mean, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who maybe can get that time off, or I don't know exactly how it works, but most of the people that work, uh, like in the office or whatever, in the same sort of capacity that we do,
Hmm.
they're really getting very few days off.
Yeah. No mental health days in India.
Yeah.
No. In Europe, any day you want off, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the thing? Like you can take whatever time off you want, but people are
You
watching. We're watching to
you
see who
have
takes less
you
time off.
have you get a certain amount of vacation time.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure how. It's like I want to say 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And then there's different levels to it or whatever, but I think the minimum is like 2 weeks, and then uh, you can just call in sick. There's no real like sick days.
Mm.
So here you have like 8 sick days or whatever a year they can use. Over there, that's like illegal to have sick days. So if you're sick, you just call out sick. It's not it's not like you have 8 of them, that you have to spread out or whatever.
Honor
Um,
system.
and then it's like you can take up to 6 or 7 days off for being
Hmm.
sick. And then if you go over that amount, you need a doctor's note.
Mm. If you're
So
really sick, then you have to have a doctor's note. If you're,
yeah.
I don't want to work today sick, you don't need a doctor's note.
Yeah. So I mean you got like you could be sick for like 6 days, come in
Uh-huh.
that 7th day, work that day, and then on the 8th day you could just take another 7 days.
Theoretically,
Theoretically.
yeah.
Um
That's the piece that's missing is how many days are you allowed to, what's the minimum number of days you have to work after having been sick for 6 days before you can take another 6 days off? Another six sick days. There we go.
the thing is, like, maybe like you have some sort of disease, you're trying to figure it out, you get sick for a long time, you try to come back, you end up getting sick again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real situation that happens. You know what I mean? But it's probably not happening.
It's the
I don't know. I
exception,
don't know
not the rule.
how do you combat the idea of somebody just taking a whole bunch of days off when you're done.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what it's like to work at I don't know, like if you work at like a different, you know what I mean? I work at like a corporate sort of investment firm,
Mm-hmm.
doing all kinds of like huge company, you know what I mean? It has all these safety nets and all that kind of stuff that comes with having, corporate structure, 401k benefits and all that yada yada. You know what I mean? I don't know what it's like to work at like a fish and chip shop, in Brixton, you know what I mean? Maybe, if you call in sick a couple of days, that guy's just gonna fire you and that's fine. Like I don't know exactly how the labor laws work in
Blue collar.
yeah, blue collar, different kinds of situations, you know what I mean?
Or
If you work
retail or service or something.
Yeah, so I mean in America, if you work for a corporation, there's a certain set of expectations that you may have, but they don't necessarily have to give you anything. You know what I mean? So it's like depending on where you work, people, in America were like, okay, well, these companies will offer those things because they want to attract the highest amount of talent. You know what I mean? So it's set up in a way to incentivize and things like that. From what I understand in Europe, it's the structure is a little bit different. Maybe every company has to give you a certain amount of shit. You know what I mean? Like they gotta pay for your dental or your health or something like that. And then even if you work at a fish and chip shop, I don't know. Maybe it's different. I don't know where the line's drawn either way.
Well, that's kind of the battleground right now between corporate America or between the employers and the employed. And that's why we're seeing so much more unionization is because not nobody, less it's less and less common to be given a full-time 40-hour-a-week job with benefits, with retirement planning, right? With a path forward. Whereas now employers make sure to give their workers 29 hours or whatever the cutoff is, where they don't have to pay health benefits and they don't have to have any kind of long-term care packages. So like fast food employees, I think I've heard this in the news. Fast food employees are working 2 different jobs to get, full-time pay and 0 benefits.
Because they're not giving them the hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially franchise owners, right? That they're not getting any help from the parent company, so it's completely on them. So they're like the worst of both worlds. They're running a small business, but they're big brothers over their shoulder and telling them how to treat their employees, and just trying to appease both masters. Stuck in the middle. Very,
well,
very fortunate.
I do wonder, how these companies in Europe even make money sometimes too, though.
I wonder that about all companies, dude. I don't know.
I mean,
how in the world does your company have however many hundreds or thousands of employees across the entire world that are all synchronized and whatever? I can't even fathom breaking out of my business, which is just me working with clients one-on-one, week after week, day after day, hour by hour.
But I mean, this is like a huge corporate structure, but I mean, how does it let's say I want to start like a business in Europe or whatever, it just seems like the cost of doing business is so high that I don't know how it works. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, in Europe specifically for sure. But what I'm saying is just in general, the whole concept of having a multi-million-dollar business, which is not even a big deal, right? If you have 5 employees, you're bumping up against, you have to have $1 million in revenue to employ 5 people.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And to have some kind of goods and services and the product that you sell and the discrepancy between costs and income and whatever, that's crazy numbers. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I can't really wrap my head around it either. We need a business guy to come on here, break it down for us.
There we go. It's not me.
It's definitely, I don't know. That's kind of why a lot of people always tell me oh, you should go into freelance and stuff like that. And I'm always I don't want to start a business, man. That's just not my skill set.
It's true. To start your own business, you have to learn all the skills. Everybody that starts their own business has one skill, whatever that thing is that they're good at, right? The entrepreneur is, you're good at graphic design. I'm good at delivering training. And then you start a business and you're oh, now I have to learn everything else that I'm not good at and I don't like doing. And not being good at it reinforces how much I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
It's rough, dude.
So I'm always no.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to do.
Yeah. You're happy to have a couple gigs on the side, but still have your full-time job.
Right. And I mean, it sort of sucks having a boss and not having as much freedom as I want. Mm-hmm. But I don't have to worry about, I don't have to be on top of a million different things. I don't have to be on top of getting clients.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know what that's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Generating leads is that's a hard skill.
If anything, that's the thing that I would really want to hire somebody to go do for me more so than anything else. It's have a guy be an accounts guy or whatever, and he goes and tries to get clients and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like, these businesses aren't run by one person. They're run by maybe one person, and he hires a bunch of people or whatever,
Yeah.
and, gets a plan going, and then 5 years, he's starting to make a little bit of profit.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. That long game is
Mm-hmm.
hard. It's hard for me to see that long. don't,
Yeah.
I
It's
don't have that long vision.
yeah. 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 Yeah.
I guess I do believe in practice. You know,
That's what I like about this is that we are doing the practice right now and not attached to the outcome.
right.
That was one of the other things I did yesterday for Father's Day for myself was one of those breathwork sessions that this guy hosts a Zoom breathwork session, and I wasn't really going anywhere with it. I was having a good experience in my body with the breathing and some of the breath work and the breath holds and stuff like that. But I wasn't really going anywhere. I wasn't like having any insights or awarenesses until the very end, at which point it was like just detach, non-attachment, which is something that I feel very strongly about, but I always forget. I'll always forget.
Like disassociation.
No, just detaching from expected outcomes, expectations, and anticipation, expectation. There's a phrase, a Taoist philosophy phrase, mantra, whatever, something like that. It's called Wu Wei, Wuwei, Wu Wei,
Wu Wei.
which just means going with the wind.
Okay.
Literally,
Yeah.
put the sails up, and wherever you go is where you go. And I really love that concept, but I feel like I'm very bad at it, which is probably why I'm so attracted to it. So every once in a while, when that hits me, it's like, oh, yeah, detach. I feel so much better now.
I mean, I agree with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've always kind of seen it as like the river. Bruce Lee talks about like the river, you got to be like water.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I definitely feel that. But I do feel like as I've gotten older, you know, I want things more. We probably talked about this on this podcast already, but like,
Yeah.
there's more of a hunger for things and more of a want for things, and putting myself in that mind state doesn't feel comfortable because I feel like I'm being irresponsible.
So when you say you want more achievement, you want more materials, you want more accomplishment, you want
Yeah,
more, yeah.
all the above.
I I feel like the
To a
the
certain extent. I don't want to be like that's all I'm about. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? But I do
You want
feel
you want
like I spent my 20s being very like let the chips fall where they may, man, whatever. And
Mhm,
that didn't really get me far.
mhm,
And that I kind of felt like as I was turning 30, taking like more control over my life, it was
yeah.
bringing more benefits. So I
Mhm,
became a lot less, really kind of like stepped away from that mindset and took on like a different kind of mindset. Because I felt like there are things I need to achieve in this life. Um, and some of those were like vain or shallow or whatever, like more money and nice place to
mhm,
live or whatever type thing.
mhm.
Um, but I felt like I need a little bit more, not structure or whatever, but a little bit more focus or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I couldn't be as just like let the wind take me somewhere or something like that.
Right. Right.
Um,
I think there's degrees, and I think that's where a lot of people might get tripped up on it, and they just see it as like a black and white. If I let the sail, if I lift the sail and I just let the wind take me, that means I'm not trying or something like that. But for me, it's I'm going to keep doing what I'm trying to do, but I'm not going to force everything. That's the difference for me. Because yeah, I do. I mean, I'd love to have enough income to comfortably support a family, I'd love to drive a nicer, newer car. You know, anytime I'm on the road, I'm just always like jonesing for, oh, I'd love to, what would it be like to drive that car? Oh, you know, Tesla's on my list. I wanted a Tesla for forever. But at the same time, that's like, that only makes me more nuts.
Yeah.
Rather than settled and not complacent, but like uh, satisfied.
Yeah, I feel like there's a good sense of keeping on how you know, like that trekking along and working towards your goals and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
then sure, it's not like a complete whole thing, you know, everything just kind of like let it like throw up in the wind. But you know, there's gonna be certain times when the good choice is gonna be to just kind of like, let's just see how this rides out. You know what I mean? Um, maybe not like as opposed to a whole like just mental philosophy every day, just being kind of like that. Um, you know, there's going to be times in your life um, where you're going to have to make a decision or like something of that nature, and you're really going to try to force something. And the more you do it, the more it's going to drive you crazy and give you anxiety and things of that nature. And there's going to be certain things in life where you're just going to have to change your mindset, you know, the woo, what was it?
Wu Wei.
Woo
Wu
way
Wei.
about it, be woo way about it, you know,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to like really trying to force things. And maybe there's going to be other times in your life where you can't be woo way about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you really got to fucking put your foot down and really push for, get that push in to like make something happen.
Yeah.
So
Put
I
your
guess
foot on the
that's kind of
gas.
what I feel like at this mid 30s kind of age that I'm at right now. You know,
Yeah.
spent a lot of my 20s being woo way about things, and my
Mhm.
30s being the opposite about it.
Yeah.
And the the opposite the opposite stuff has brought me certain things, but it's also mentally it's not super healthy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think definitely um, definitely need to find a balance, as with everything, but um, it's kind of like a case by case basis.
Okay. It's interesting. Case by case. Wu Wei case by case.
I mean, I don't know. What do you feel about that?
I find it's very easy for me and my personality to get into a obsessive compulsive rut of just
Sure.
like trying and doing and trying and doing and trying and doing and and then being frustrated by the lack of results. And rather than quitting because I'm not getting results, being able to step back and say, let's keep trying. I'm not going to stop doing what I think I need to do, but reevaluating the drive and the effort and the energy and the intensity that I'm putting into it. Is this,
Asking
is
yourself
this,
why you're
yeah,
pushing for this or whatever that
yeah,
goal.
exactly. Yeah. Always,
Okay.
always asking why. Always asking why. Why am I doing this? And then constantly just reevaluating, you know, reevaluating. Is that still why? Is that still a good reason? Is, you know, and as you go, as you push towards whatever your goal is and seeing the things, like, for example, I have a friend who is very active and very successful with his social media accounts and music producing business and stuff like that. And the more time I spend in that environment, the more time I can actually see not just like the shiny goal outcome that would be great if I could make $500,000 a year like this guy's doing, but like how he has to live in order to get that, right? And
Mhm.
what his lifestyle is like, and what his social life is like, and what his the status of his brain activity level activation, right, is in order to, you know, it's like working like 16 hours a day, you know, just like ordering food in because it's the hustle culture tells you that me driving to pick up food or cooking my own food is not cost productive, right? Like it's
I mean, time
probably
is money.
true.
Time is
It's probably
money.
true, but I like we started today at 7 because I got home. I needed to decompress for a little bit. I wanted to make something to eat, and I ate like a champ. I feel great, super full, and I can't. I mean, maybe I could eat like that out, but it would cost me 35, $50 a meal, right? But when
Yeah.
I'm able to cook that for myself, it feels good. I know what I'm cooking. It's in my fridge. It's in my excuse me. It's in my house. Uh, Makes me happy. So
So that's something to evaluate, you know,
exactly
especially when you're feeling like anxiety and
about I'm not making it, and
yeah,
how come this isn't
envy or whatever
working?
you want to call it. You're comparing yourself,
Yeah. Say again. What was that?
like envy, like when you're comparing yourself, that type of
Envy?
anxiety. Yeah, envy,
Oh,
ENV,
oh, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah,
comparing yourself. You know what I mean? That
there
type
was,
of
yeah, there was plenty of envy. This guy's making so much money, and maybe I could do that too. And then and then being in it and seeing what it actually is from firsthand experience, rather than just being clouded by uh, the fantasy of, yeah, if you just do this, then you could have. It's like, man, this is I don't know. I don't know if I could tolerate that, but but because I see that, that helps me reevaluate the why, and then I can moderate my intensity and my effort. Maybe I don't make it. That's also been a big thing. It's like, well, this might fail. This might not work, and
right.
if it doesn't work, 6 months ago would have been like, that can't happen. And at this point, if it fails, meh, I tried. I fucking tried. And maybe I'm not cut out for that.
Or maybe you just don't like that and
Exactly. Yeah.
figure something else out. You know what I mean?
I'm not willing to live that life to cultivate that level of success, or
I
that
also think
form of success.
there's also another issue of lacking
Lacking what?
network, like a network of
Okay.
people or professionals or something like that. It's like we have our friend group,
Uh-huh.
imagine if there was somebody in the friend group
Uh-huh.
that's really good with social media and all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of like a whiz on that you could like partner up with,
Right.
at least to a certain extent, where either he can hold your hand and teach you some kinds of things, actual
Mm-hmm.
things or whatever, or connect you with somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, I do feel like maybe some of these, because I mean, like, let's say, like the example of that dude or whatever, like, let's say he's making, $500,000 or whatever
Mm-hmm.
a year on his stuff or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you could slice off 100,000 of that and give to like your social media guy or something like that, you're still walking away with like, 300, 400 grand or whatever, which is probably more than whatever you're making now.
Yeah. Oh, I have
You know
no
what I mean?
idea. I have no
Yeah,
idea what
exactly.
he's actually making, because I know he grosses, but he's not netting, or he
Yeah.
nets, but he's not grossing that much
And
money.
that's another thing too, is like
Absolutely. How much
you're
is he
not
actually
seeing
making?
the sunk cost or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm
And
seeing him now from what I've spent so far in terms of money and time and all that.
but I mean, maybe that's also part of the business plan, is to bring on somebody else to
Yeah.
help you with that, so you can focus on this and that or whatever. And
Hmm.
what I mean is, like, I think a lot of people that are successful are people that have a good network, or at
Absolutely.
least a good network for whatever they're trying to do.
Build the
You know,
team.
yeah, or like consulting, having like people to consult with and stuff like that. Like these guys, they had like, Brian and stuff like that. They have like me to consult with on graphic stuff to make their stuff look good and things like that.
Hmm.
Where it's like it's not costing them anything. I'm doing a minimal amount of work that's mostly just like
Hmm.
on a volunteer basis. Um, but they're able to get a part of their work that they are not, professional at, to at least get something close to it and have at least some peace of mind that a guy who is working in this industry is helping me out. So I know it's like quality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, maybe we can get that same sort of relationship. I'm sure like people that have that same kind of relationship with a lot of different people that they network with,
Mm-hmm.
probably helps out a lot, And I'm sure like even with like music, a lot of these people that are like really big in the music, like that are successful in the music industry,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those people are people that know people that have studio space or know people that know how to use Pro Tools, or you know what I mean? Like maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
a lot of like rappers and stuff like that. You'd be surprised how many like Nepo babies in a lot of different industries there are, because they're built into a network, or not built into it, but they're born into it, or somehow find themselves in a network of people that could give them opportunity and consultation to make the picture a lot clearer that they're trying to paint.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think a lot of these people that are really successful, they have talent or drive, but they also have help.
Yeah.
And I feel like guys like you and me, maybe some of the listeners of this podcast, kind of like lone wolf a little bit, very like I'm gonna do it myself kind of people, DIY people. We don't like to put anything in the hands of other people. It's that aspect is not how we're wired. We're sort of wired to put it all on our back and go up the mountain ourselves. You know what I mean? So we kind of lack the network, because we're just not that social, or we aren't that. I don't know if we're not social is like the right word or whatever. Not antisocial or whatever, but we're very just kind of like individual minded or something of that nature, or something along those lines, where we've gotten pretty far by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we got some help from our parents and things of that nature or whatever, but our modus, is to sort of you got to learn it yourself. You got to figure it out yourself. You got to do it yourself. You got to show up by yourself. All that kind of stuff. Because you can't if you want the job done right, you got to do it yourself, and all those other kinds of sayings that we kick around. You know what I mean? If we somehow, if we got a little bit more help from other people, I think it would take us a little further. But we're just not wired that way.
And here's the kicker, is that some people get off on this. They love it. Like the game, the business is the game, and that's their thing. They're like, I'm going to figure out these skills, and I want to network with other people, and I want to, brainstorm what my next steps are, and I want to look 5 years into the future. Some people are wired for that, and they love that, and they like that. And those are the people that are probably going to make it. Somebody that likes the artistry of whatever your skill set is probably not going to make it in the longer term without that network and without wanting to develop that network. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like having a network is huge, like you're saying. Wanting to build out a network is also a part of that, right? And wanting to figure out all these other aspects that for some people have a bad taste in the mouth. But if it has a bad taste in the mouth, then you probably need to find other people to help you do it, and then you kind of have to want to do that, and the people that don't want, right? It's like the forward two steps, backward 2 steps.
I do want to, like, I guess I want a network of people, but
are you actively seeking it out? Is it like all you're thinking about is like, who's going to be the person that's going to help me do this, and what's my 3 next steps and stuff like that. Like I think you do have to be obsessive compulsive driven, thinking about it all the time, consumed by it, unfortunately. That's my impression at this point from the immersion I've had with it. And
I
I'm
mean,
gonna keep pushing. I'm
are
still in the stream. I
are
still got the
are
sail
you
up.
looking 3 years ahead? Are you?
No, I was supposed to be profitable by January. Fuck. I was supposed to be profitable 6 months ago. I was supposed to be making sales. I was supposed to be driving my Tesla.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I have a general sense of like the next few years, but I don't have like a game plan or set goals or anything.
Yeah.
I have
Are
like
you
vague goals, like I want to make this much money or whatever by next year, but I don't have like necessarily like how to do it.
some people are really good with like a vision board. You heard of these things?
Yeah, yeah, I heard of it.
Right? And just the whole idea of somebody like spending it, to me it's so off-putting. Like how could you how could you so self-aggrandize and delude yourself into thinking that the
Yeah,
shit that you put on a poster board is going to be your roadmap for the next 3 years? Dude, life doesn't work that way. Life is not a straight line. Life is creeks, right? Rushing in and
right.
out, and then you get dumped into the ocean and the fish eat you.
I mean, I guess there's this sense of like give yourself a constant reminder kind of thing,
Yeah,
but that doesn't work for me.
yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking of that, it's self-talk is a huge thing, right? How
sure.
much how much how much intentionally positive self-talk do you give to yourself?
Oh, it only in the reaction of me realizing how much fucking self
Negative.
hate I made.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm just
this
like
is
shit,
this is
you
the
know.
kind of this is the kind of business podcast I want to have right here. How much do you talk to yourself and give yourself hate?
Right. It's constant. It's
It's constant.
it's like raining. You know how it like rains all the time
Hmm.
in Seattle. It's like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Just
exactly.
constantly coming down on you, and you just kind of like will jump into like an awning of a building to get out of it for a second or whatever, but then you have to keep walking down the street to get to your destination. It's just like
Love
that's
that
what it's like.
analogy. What's best is that we have this on video of how you did that too. I love how you like get over here like, oh, more rain, more me talking to
Yeah,
myself. Oh, I can't handle it anymore. I have to go
it's
into this awning.
unrelenting.
Okay, going back out. Oh.
It's so fucking unrelenting, man.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's funny. Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm reminded of that. I do yoga once a week with this lady, and she's like the complete opposite of what you just described. Like I can't imagine that a single negative thing comes into her head. She's so obnoxiously positive. And like I intentionally try and get to, so I do it with a couple like my family. Um I I try and get to the house before she gets there so that I don't have to walk in with her. Because when I have to walk in with her, it's like, how was your week? And how was your trip? And how are you doing? And isn't it wonderful? And like, it's so positive. I'm like, for fuck's sake, that's not how life is. My life is, where's the gray? Where's the gray in your life?
Yeah.
She's
Where's the
wonderful.
poo
I love her to
brown?
death, though. What's that?
I say, where's the poo brown?
Where's the poo brown?
Yeah.
She probably doesn't poop. Probably a fact.
I mean, I'm jealous. Jealous. Oh,
I don't know though. I'd rather be um I'd rather have all of it than just the pretend happy.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The other day, I think Friday, I was kind of slowed down, I was kind of low, not like depressed, but just like slowed down, really slowed down. And the people I was around were just tons of energy. So I just left and went into a different room and read a little bit and followed my own pace. But later that day, I was really excited that I didn't just um, rev up to everybody else's pace just because that's where they were at.
Sure.
I was happy to be slowed down and a little bit lower because personally I have more insights and awarenesses and thoughts and feelings and stuff like that come up when I'm lower than when I'm higher. When I'm higher, I've got great ideas and aggrandized, you know, big lofty goals, and the world is mine, whatever, which is, you know, it's not going to last. It's so impermanent. It's so fleeting that it's, yeah, I don't like to be there for long periods of time.
So you kind of saying that this woman just kind of lives there?
The only contact I have with her is she is way up there, way up there and which is great for an hour to be around her. I can't imagine what it's like. I'm sure she's not like that all the time, but who knows? Maybe she is.
Maybe
It's
she's
possible.
borderline bipolar, manic bipolar.
I think she's unipolar. I think she's only up, and always up.
Yeah,
But what about
I
you?
mean, I'm definitely not. I mean, I've never been able to, like, if I'm in that low point, like,
Mhm.
there is no getting up to that higher point.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's not happen.
what when are you there? Because everybody has some highs and some lows, right? And then certain people probably default to more low than high or more high than low. Like certain people are just more up, extroverted, maybe positive, whatever, and some people are more just like brooding, right? So when are you up, and why are you up, and how long does it last, and
I'm I'm
what's your
only
experience
up.
there?
I'm only up when I'm, like things like I get like a promotion or something like that
Mm-hmm.
at work, or like I back like a bad check off a client. There's some sense of like a productive win
Mm-hmm.
that will definitely raise my sail, and I'll definitely be thinking lofty goals and like creating hyperbole in my brain on
Mm-hmm.
things. But most of the time, I'm on the low end. Uh, it's a lot of like boiling things down to the reality of the situation as hard as I possibly can, to the point where I'm putting myself in like worst case scenarios constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and then trying to figure out, like, my brain is sort of like constantly putting scenarios in my mind where I'm in the worst case scenario, and then me trying to figure out ways where that worst case scenario won't happen.
Like finding your way out of the worst case
Yeah,
scenario, or
yeah. But it's the
trying to
idea of
convince yourself
like,
that it's not actually going to happen.
yeah, like, and all this shit's not gonna happen. I mean, like, and then having to sort of like talk to myself into like getting myself out of these things. The idea is like this idea of like escape, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, like this idea of escape, we think of like, oh, you escape to fantasy, or like
Mm-hmm.
a like the good place in your brain or whatever. But many
Mm-hmm.
people don't do that. They escape to the bad place. You know what I
Interesting.
mean?
Yeah.
There's especially people who deal with anxiety, dread, and stuff like that. Your brain, for some reason, doesn't escape to like this like good place, this daydreaming place. It escapes to whatever the worst case scenario is, constantly
Mm-hmm.
thinking. Brain is constantly attracted to this like this intrusive thought, if you want to call it, of like the worst shit. What's the worst shit that's gonna happen right now? Like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, and maybe it's learned over time. There's this sense of like, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. You
Mm-hmm.
know, maybe it's like our brain has taken this to an obsessive point
Mm-hmm.
where we only feel safe if we're constantly outlining the worst case scenario, and maybe that's how you feel like you survive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly that etymology of how people get to this point, but I definitely escaped this, I like, the worst case scenario, and having to sort of tell yourself that that's, ludicrous, and use some logic and some self-awareness to understand that the situation is not like that. Even like the last time that we talked, I was talking about, my boss being mad at me and being really worried over that. It's sort of the same thing. It's like you're somehow trying to prepare yourself for the worst possible thing, and putting yourself in a mindset, some cognitive state where the worst shit is happening to you, because you feel like that's the only way you're going to survive or something, in some kind of molecule type metaphorical idea of that, you know what I mean? When in reality, like, I talked to my boss, like, they basically were like, it's fine, we create a system so it doesn't happen anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it was nothing, like, literally nothing. Like, and I worried the hell over it because I couldn't help it. The whole time I'm trying to tell myself, like, dude, you're fine. Nothing's gonna happen. Like, you're escaping to the bad place. You know what I mean? Just get over, like, you're fine. Constantly having to tell myself you're fine, you're okay. Like, the logical thing that's gonna happen is this, not what you are thinking.
But you weren't able to convince yourself.
I could only do it for a minimal amount of time,
Gotcha.
And like, maybe I could get away from it for like an hour or 2 hours or something like that, but come back.
I think that's a skill set, being able to, because I think your choice to run through worst case scenarios prepares you for every possibility, right?
Yeah.
But then what's missing in that, and what I think this woman that I do yoga with has, is she can actually talk to herself like you were trying to, and actually make an impact on herself like you were unable to, like a long-term impact.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So one of the things she says is, remember your future, and you only good things happen to you. You deserve good things. The usual, like, new age hippie garbage, right? That, like, is so hard to palate. But there's got to be somewhere in between, like, where you can have the doomsday preparation like you do, but you can also talk yourself off the ledge better than you can, but maybe not as sugar coated as the yogi.
Well, I mean, the yogi, like, has she had good things happen to her? Like, she's hiring you to work out with her. She must be like,
she's her son is autistic. Her first husband passed away early. She's on her second marriage, so I think it's like a perspective shift that she has, that, like, all these bad things are going to happen, will happen, have happened, are going to continue to happen, but it doesn't change the way that she feels about the universe and how she should receive from the universe.
Interesting.
I mean, I can't recall all the different mantras that she has, but a lot of them are like these ones that, like, they're kind of like, blah, they make you want to throw up, right?
They're corny.
But they also, like, it feels really nice to have a taste of that every once in a while, like once a week or every other week, to have a taste of that, instead of the noise that I have to listen to, the rain that you're hiding out from in the awning.
Yeah.
So,
well, then, like, we sort of like we convinced ourselves down to sort of like the atom of the brain that we have like a negative, like a permanent sort of negative view on things. You know what I mean? I guess what I'm trying to get at is, trying to tell myself that stuff, it just comes off as like a lie, like I'm lying to myself.
Yeah, it doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah, the authentic self is cynical, everything is shit, life is hell kind of thing, you know what I mean? Which is like, obviously it's exaggerated, over exaggerated, you know what I mean? But it's because when you like that sort of immediate knee jerk reaction of looking back at your life, you're not thinking about all the good things that have happened to you.
Yeah.
I'm automatically thinking of all the bad shit that's happening. Which, obviously is not the full picture. It's not a good representation of my life. A lot of good things have happened to me, done a lot of cool things or all that kind of stuff. Like I do have a lot that I can be proud of, yada, yada. Yet I'm hyper focused on the bad days, the bad times, you know what I mean? It's just like the default is shit,
Yeah.
and maybe for the yogi and the other people, like the default is not that,
Yeah. I
So
can only
with
imagine
that,
what that must be like, right? To have that for
right,
more than just a taste for 5 minutes or a taste for, a day, but to have that like all the time in your forebrain, like something bad, you start to catastrophize, and then your yogi brain kicks in and says, no, but the universe provides for you, you'll be okay. So when like you get a taste of that, it's like, oh, that's so nice. I actually, I think that maybe meditation and therapy and yoga practices, whatever, probably function along the same lines that they're starting to identify as being the mechanism of action for psychedelics and treating depression and end of life trauma, stuff like that. Is that it like basically those tracks that you're looping through in your brain, the worst case scenarios, those are like ruts in a road, right? Like if 50
a
50,000 times,
pothole,
not even a pothole, like a rut. It's just like a, let's say,
like when you drive over, it goes, blah, 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 blah.
no, not even like, so let's say there's a ski slope, right? And somebody goes down the ski slope, and then somebody else goes down the ski slope, and then 100 people go down the ski slope in that same spot.
Okay,
There's a rut, and the only place you can go is that line, right?
right. Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Until the yogi or the therapy or the psychedelics, possibly. Hockey, actually, you would get that, right? Like the
No, I get
Zamboni.
I get what you're saying. I
The
understand the
Zamboni.
metaphor. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but then the Zamboni comes, and then you have fresh ice,
yeah,
or the snow drops, and then you have fresh tracks.
sure.
That's what I think. As far as I know from the psychedelic researchers that I've been listening to podcasts, there's actually a thing on CNN this past weekend, where a journalist,
Bastion of great news.
Bastion of Great News, a journalist and two other people went to a psilocybin retreat in Jamaica. And then they had a whole experience that was facilitated by the therapist and the psilocybin expert and whatever. Anyway,
So you're saying we should
so
shrimp?
I, I would say, why haven't you been able to reestablish it after all the shrooms you've done over the years?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I do think. I think like the first few times I took shrooms, I definitely
Hmm.
felt that. I always felt like being on those drugs help you sort of it like looking at this like coffee mug, you know what I mean? Like you would kind
Hmm.
of looking at it for the first time. Like I've seen this
Okay.
coffee mug a million times, but when you're on drugs, it kind of like when you see stuff, it's kind of like you're looking at it for the first time.
Hmm.
There's a little bit more, you kind of marvel at it a little bit more. There's this sense of like
Awe.
preconceived notions, all that kind of like expectations and stuff like that kind of go out the way. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of times, like what makes people laugh so much on acid and shrooms and stuff, is this sort of like, they're usually laughing at something that they've seen 100 times before, but they're kind of looking at it the first time. There's, you know, it becomes humorous because it's novel. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
A lot of times, like saying certain words in a certain way, like maybe having a word be in the middle of a sentence when it's usually at the end of a sentence. You notice that stuff a lot more, and it's funny to you because those sort of like preconceived notions or whatever are no longer out the window. You sort of compartmentalize a lot. Yeah, exactly. So, and a lot of time, and especially in the first couple of times with mushrooms, you know, I really felt it sort of helped my development mentally, because certain things like the notion of, you know, something being in your head is cool, but what's cooler is when you can act when it's really made and it's in real life. You know what I mean? This sort of ideas of like procrastination, or just having kind of like ideas in your head that you want to get, that you think are really good, you know, business ideas or art ideas or whatever. Like at the end of the day, that's just thoughts in your head. If you really want to make something out of them, you have to bring them into the real world.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like, just getting something out there, maybe it's not perfect or whatever, maybe it's got a lot of mistakes, or it's not completely to your standard or whatever that is superior than it just being a thought in your head.
Which I think plays well into your reward circuitry, right? Because didn't you say that the times that you're up is typically in response to some sort of achievement, promotion, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely.
Yeah. So that must have wired into you somehow.
Yeah.
And also kind of shifted your perspective from your 20s of Wu Wei, like kind of stoic detachment, to now having something to shoot for, right? Actually taking all these things that are in your brain and giving life to them.
Yeah, I mean,
that's cool. So it sounds like you have integrated, because that's what I was going to say is like, some of the researchers say set and setting is important, right? Your mindset going into and the setting in which you're having the experience. But then probably the most important part would be the integration phase. How do you take whatever was shown to you and integrate it into your existing programming to update to Nima 2.0?
But like that, it's interesting kind of discussion. I definitely feel like those first couple of times, I mean, the times I'm talking about doing shrooms, these are like before I'd moved to San Francisco. And we were like 19, 20, around that, like those days or whatever. But I do feel like nowadays when I do those kinds of drugs, it's not even that. It's just kind of like a funny filter over my eyes. Like it's like it. I've no longer, it's been a while since I've felt any sort of like internal self-discovery type thing of something of that nature. I mostly it's just kind of like makes the world just kind of fun.
Right.
That's kind of
recreational.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I do feel like that's kind of what I'm going into. You know what I mean? When I do it, it's like, okay, this is gonna be a party. This is gonna be fun. I'm with my friends. We're at a rave in the middle of this whatever, or we're in the woods or whatever. So I think my mindset is I'm gonna do these drugs in a way that people do alcohol. You know what I mean? Where it's just like I'm just here to cut away from the real world for a second and just kind of have fun in this other dimension in a way. With my friends. That's kind of how I've been doing it. Recently. I'm open I'm open to other forms of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's just kind of been the case. And
You know what I like about you, Nima, is that you can do both. Is that you're not stuck on it has to be deep and powerful,
yeah,
but you go there regardless. You know what I mean? Like we were just talking about the integration course of your personal development over the course of 15 plus years, you know, like how these experiences shaped who you are over the course of 15 years. Um, I mean, that's a kind of mindset right there, right? That it's you're deep, dude. You're deep. You run deep.
you're
Even
deep too. You're
though,
deep too, bro.
even though you have machismo that you have to maintain appearances because Nima's got this level of cool that he has to maintain. It's expectations, um, but still, like, there's more to him than that. He's not
Yeah,
just the cool guy at the party. He's also, you know,
I've never felt cool in my life. I don't know. I'll say
interesting.
this. All right, I've never felt cool in my life, and then few years ago, people started calling me cool.
Ah, it
Um,
finally caught up with you.
so I do think that there is something to be said about just doing yourself and being yourself and not being worried about, those types of things. Ultimately, you will get cool. You just kind of
Hmm.
stick to that. But I will say, I do think that we should have a trip where we go into it with some self exploration in mind.
Yeah, definitely. I have not
This
yet.
conversation has inspired me to do that because I feel like I want to have a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe want to have a self, or I don't know how to explain it, but maybe want to do drugs for not partying, but the other.
Hmm.
This conversation made me want to do drugs in a different kind of way that I've been doing
Self
recently.
self discovery.
Exactly.
Uh, yeah, yeah. That's the reason I was saying.
I got the shirt. I
Oh,
mean, I got a bunch of shrooms. I don't
oh,
know.
do you?
Yeah, I have
Right.
from Juan Carlos.
Juan Carlos,
Juan Carlos.
JC, Jesus Cristo. That's his. That's his pseudonym is Juan Carlos. I'm. Oh, this is funny in so many ways. Give me a minute to unpack this. Okay, so Juan Carlos is our friend. Whatever. You don't know
You
who
do,
he is.
yes.
I'm not going to explain him to you. JC, obviously Juan Carlos Jesucristo. But he's this big dude that walks around on broken ass knees. And can't you just imagine him as being our Lord and Savior? Jesus Christ, the shepherd with broke knees. Oh, I need my CBD oil. That last time they hung me on the cross, I mean, they were just beating the shit out of my knees. They missed my feet. They just put the nails through my
Hell
knees.
right.
Oh,
Oh my god, just thinking
bastards.
about it.
He still kept up with us though in Joshua Tree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. More than anybody though, Nima keeps up, dude. Nima's fast. Are you still going to the gym at all?
I haven't been in a few months to be honest, but
Months. You're just paying the
yeah, I
bill.
know. So I was in New York, and New York I was walking around a lot, and like the
That's
first
true.
couple of days I was like, oh shit, dude, I'm so out of shape.
But
Like
that
every
changes fast, right?
yeah, like the bone, like like the foot has like 140 bones in it or whatever. It was
Mm-hmm.
like all
Mm-hmm.
those bones were hurting
Oh.
like separately. I was just it was rough.
uh,
But then by like the third or fourth day, my body kind of like adjusted to it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I got
And
used to it.
I got used to it. But then the smoke hit, and that just shit just ruined me. So
Yeah, sounded
I'm
like
like
a
still hawking up every morning, hawking up like a diminishing amount of mucus.
nasty,
It's
nasty,
pretty
nasty.
nasty.
So my
There's like,
go-to when I'm sick, because
oh
for
yeah,
me it's almost always respiratory. I had asthma as a kid, so for me it's nasal and breathing. Anytime I start to feel like a little bit of sore throat or like a touch of asthma, it's always Mucinex and Advil. Because Mucinex, whatever kind of like infection is in all of your nasal cavity and respiratory cavities, it's just going to dry it up and get it out of you, and then the Advil to just knock down any inflammation. So that was one that I learned. I don't know, a few years back, maybe 5 years ago. So for me personally, anytime I start to feel sick, Mucinex and Advil. It's a freebie for all you listeners out there.
yeah.
Go get your
Actually,
drugs.
I've been doing the Mucinex too. Yeah, anytime you're dealing with phlegm, you
Hmm.
want to hit that with the Mucinex. Drink
Yeah.
lots of water. Um,
Hmm.
Minerals are really good too,
Hmm.
zinc and things like that. Advil for the inflammation, always good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like vitamin, I just ended up buying like a whole bunch of like extras, like the vitamin C pills that have like 10,000 units or whatever of them.
15,000,
Yeah, something like
15,000%
that.
daily value. Yeah.
Especially if you're a smoker,
Uh-huh.
you want to be taking a lot more vitamin C. That's something I've learned too.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. I
Hopefully,
didn't
we do
realize that.
shrooms and like something kicks my brain that kicks the smoking. That would be awesome.
One
That
of
would
the
be
guys on the
put me to
CNN
shit.
thing, one of the guys on the CNN thing. So one, the journalist was just a journalist. He didn't have anything in particular going on.
Mhm.
He was just really rigid. He was really uptight. And then there was a woman who is a makeup artist, a cosmetic makeup artist, and she was just like struggling with like life direction and priorities and stuff like that. And then there was this man, the third guy, and he was a like mortgage broker, really successful guy. Had a big business and lots of employees and stuff like that, but his coping mechanism was always alcohol, and it was obviously, uh, you know, anybody that's using alcohol to cope is probably going to catch up with them at some point. It's one
Yeah,
thing to enjoy alcohol recreationally. I'm not trying to shame people that enjoy alcohol, but somebody that's like using it to manage the stress of their life is probably not going to go
yeah,
well,
yeah. I
especially
agree.
chronically. Yeah. So he went into this shroom experience with like really high expectations of this is going to help me finally stop drinking. And you could feel like the addictive pressure through his conversations with the journalists, through his conversations with the facilitators, and they did two trips a day apart. The first trip was like, let's make sure we don't ruin these people. So the journalist and the alcoholic both had no experience. Like nothing happened. They were just rolling around on the beds and kind of bored. But then the next trip, it was like a real slow come up. And then the alcoholic guy was like having the trip of his life. He was talking about, different colors and stuff like that. And like a train that went through the tunnel and it carried all of the stress and pressure and whatever of his life with him and something like that, paraphrasing. But afterwards, the integration session, which is where they got to talk to a therapist and the film crew was recording it, he was talking about how he has no desire to drink ever again, and he's completely healed, and he's, yeah, right. And you can feel the addictive pressure of like, wow, he just placeboed himself into this thing for sure. For sure. All he needed was to have some kind of like extrasensory experience to confirm that mushrooms do in fact do something, and therefore I don't have to drink anymore. And at the very, very end, they said they did a like 2 month follow up with him, and he still hadn't had a drink and whatever. But like the feeling of this guy's like addictive pressure being transferred from alcohol to now shrooms fixed me. It's like, whoa, this is. Ugh. Don't go into it with expectations, but hopefully, hopefully you can have a real resolution to your smoking issues without it being like transferring one addiction to another.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting take. There is definitely something about that addiction. People who have what they call like addictive behavior or something like that. There's a feverish energy that comes with everything.
Exactly.
And so like you're kind of saying that like you did the shrooms and the shrooms did something, but it doesn't really matter what they did or what it was. It was just a kind of conduit that he could push that energy into. Yeah, transfer that energy into.
Yeah.
There's
It is very, very palpable how pressured, because addicts are very pressuring, just always like pressure, intensity.
Yeah.
How
it's a tight grip.
Exactly. He's really holding on to his alcoholism as being a problem, and now he's really holding on to his sobriety as being the ticket. And it's like, this is exactly the same. How come the therapists aren't like catching this and being like, hey, dude, guess what you just did? That's what we call transference. But I don't know if it works. I think the healthiest thing an addict can do is substitution. Just figure out something else to be addicted to. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, dude. Go
as
be
long
addicted.
As you don't transfer it to another bad addiction.
Yeah, the healthy. That was obviously a qualifier. Right. I'm going to transfer from smoking to driving drunk.
The thing is, though, addiction. The transferring to something bad is easy.
Is it?
Transferring to something good is kind of hard sometimes.
Oh, transferring from bad to bad. Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's easy.
I think the thing with the shrooms, though, is, even though it's may not necessarily matter what the actual chemistry is doing, it is an intense enough experience to really soak up that energy. Whereas in like the kind of stuff you find in your normal day may not have as much of a like experience. Like the experience isn't strong enough to really break that addiction or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, eating I don't know. It's hard to explain or give an example, but shrooms are enough to really like change your kind of like your headspace enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Has to be earth shattering.
Yeah, it's got to be a little bit. It's helpful that it's earth shattering. Is helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just.
That's probably why alcoholics need like some kind of. Their wife left them, and they got a DUI, and they totaled their car, and they ended up in the hospital for a month before they finally made whatever changes that stuck this time. Right? Yeah. It's one thing to get pulled over by a cop and pass the DUI test. It's another thing to actually get busted for DUI and go to jail and all these things. It's got to be something severe.
I mean, even those. I mean, some guys they have like 7 to 8 fucking DUIs and they're still drinking and stuff like that. Like,
if only they did shrooms.
I mean, I remember when I got kind of like a DUI, but it wasn't exactly a DUI. But I had to go to DUI class, and there's a girl in there who was like, she was working on her third DUI, and her third DUI came. She was on her way to court for her second DUI and got pulled over for drunk driving.
Shit.
And the thing is, like, even with the cigarettes, I mean, I'm out here in fucking New York, goddamn sky looking like, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are about to like burst through the clouds. And I'm still just like smoking, you know what I mean? Hitting the vape, you know what I mean? Like, you would think something like, death knocking at your door would make you stop your addiction, but it doesn't. Your brain is more powerful. Brain is really good at rationalizing and all that kind of stuff.
It's probably hard to flip the script on that too, because smoking and vaping is so easy. It's such an easy key to insert and change your mental state, right?
Definitely.
Ease and effect size, probably two of the triggers that you got to pull on.
And it's like, you know, I'll just say from like personal experience, like I have so little control over my smoking addiction. So I end up controlling everything else. You know what I mean? As a way to sort of compensate. So in that sense, you're just adding, you're like enabling yourself in a way. You're like, well, yeah, you eat healthy, you go to the gym, you know, blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like you're doing fine, you know. It's just like
this is the least of your problems,
right? Like hawking up like fat gobs of fucking mucus. Being like, hey, I'm fine. Let's have a cigarette. You know what I mean? It's great. Yeah.
Might not be mucus forever.
Blood.
I went there.
But yeah. I mean, it would be, you know, I definitely need to figure it out.
How did Will quit?
I don't know. Yeah. He started running.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that because it's got to be some kind of comparable effect, right?
I think
so maybe
I think it's comes down to behavior, like learned behavior. Okay. So Will, I think, was able to break up his routine, his daily routine, both physical and mental, and start running. So the thing is, so it's like, you know, I start work at 3, you know, so that's 2:45. I have the cigarette before work. You know, you work 2 hours, take a break, that's a cigarette. You got 2 hours later, you got a lunch break, you smoke a cigarette. Like the cigarette is grained into the system of your life, you know what I mean? Routine. I think if somehow able to break up that daily routine, that would go way further in breaking the learned habit of, you know, smoking a cigarette or whatever you do.
Yeah. I think with
I'm sure alcoholism and stuff like that is probably different. I don't think all addictions are exactly the same, but that's what I feel like the cigarette addiction is kind of like.
I wonder if there's something to it that the substitution was also a cardiovascular respiratory thing, right? Because smoking is obviously a respiratory thing.
Yeah, maybe
you're having some kind of interaction with your breath, which breathing is huge, right? Breathing. I mean, yesterday I had my quote unquote drug by doing this guided breathwork session for an hour, and dude, completely shifted my energy, my my perspective, my mood, all of that. I had an insight at the end that was like, oh, the kind of like release, like the same kind of like dopamine release that you get with whatever your drug of choice is. So I wonder,
is that kind of like runner's high or whatever they talk about?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this one's a series of maybe like 2 to 3 minutes of hyperventilating, and then a long breath hold, either on the inhale or on the exhale. And on those long breath holds, from having hyperventilated, you dump all of your CO2, and your CO2 is what gives you the urge to take a breath. Like as your CO2 builds up, that's what gives you that panicky feeling of, I need to take a breath. So when you do this CO2 purging for 2 or 3 minutes, and then you do these long breath holds, you just like hang out there for like 2 minutes of like just this intense energy. And when I do on an inhale, so I'm getting kind of manicky talking about it. This is my drug. On the inhale, I've never done DMT, but I have read about and done a few exercises from some of these breath people that say it's DMT mimicking. You just get this head rush. Like I've had a couple times where on a really good session with the right music and the right mindset going into it, and towards the end, like do this long breath hold for like 2 or 3 minutes. And it just feels like I'm like my head's about to burst. Like I'm a rocket ship, like my consciousness is a rocket ship just going into outer space. And those are dope. Those are so cool.
Interesting.
Plus there's no come down, you know.
Yeah.
For me, my
Well, I mean, so
neurochemistry
like
is real sensitive.
DMT, we have DMT in the body, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
true?
exactly.
Yeah,
It's produced naturally, and so obviously it's not the same as and actually Sam Harris, uh, who is a neurologist, neuroscientist, and um, purveyor of all things meditation. So he characterizes psychedelics and meditation as being like parallel experiences. The difference
Okay.
being that when you take a psychedelic, it's like strapping onto a rocket ship. You're going into orbit and you're going to get there really fucking fast, and the ride's going to be intense. Versus meditation is like hoisting a sail, kind of like the Wu Wei,
Hmm.
and you get there, but the path and the speed and the rate is much more slow and deliberate and uh, gentle. But because of how gentle it is, for some people it just doesn't resonate. Like you have to do this thing for a lifetime to have enough experience and exposure to be good enough at it to really get to that same level as you might get with exogenous uh, substances. So the breath
Pretty
work, I
cool.
think,
Yeah, it's
is
pretty
pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah, and that's kind of like we were talking about earlier with the yogi, that therapy, psychedelics, mantras, stuff like that, they're all overlapping the same sort of effect, which is which is deconstructing those ruts that we establish from our negative or positive self-talk over years and years and decades, and just having fresh tracks to skate through.
Pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like I feel like I'm never gonna be able to get there by the meditation point.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like I like to want to go to the moon, that type of talk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it's impossible, but it's gonna be very, very difficult. Take a long
That's the
time.
thing. Yeah, it is going to. It's a lifetime. Like when do you how long does it take to get good at meditation? As
Your
long as you
whole
live,
life or whatever.
your whole
Yeah,
life.
you're
Yeah,
never
exactly.
good
You're
at
never
it.
going to be done practicing. And that's okay with me.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something um, about that mode of thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's there is no sort of like destination or endpoint or like you made it or whatever. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
this lifelong thing that you work towards.
Yeah.
And I think
That's
that it's a little bit lost in our culture
yeah, for
or
sure.
Western culture or whatever.
For
It's
sure.
um it's old thought. It's not new thought. You know what I mean? Like I think a long time ago, I think they were a little bit more in tune with that.
Yeah.
I think that gotta there's gonna be like in my life, like I do a lot of drawings and art and stuff like that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I'll never be finished getting better at drawing. Like
Yeah.
I'll just keep practicing in my whole life.
Lifelong pursuit.
You know what I mean? So that's just kind of like not exactly the same or whatever, but it's a little bit in a little like a microcosm of that in a way.
That's what I'm trying to incorporate into my personal and professional business sort of endeavors. is being able to have that intention of the road doesn't have an end. Like, I'm going to continue to work at this thing, and just because it's not working right now, and because it's frustrating right now, and I'm not getting the gratification that I had expected, doesn't mean that I'm done practicing, done learning, done trying. So when I say wu wei, and this is all in theory. Tomorrow this shit could be out the window, and I could be through with this altogether. But today, and maybe like over the past weekend, being able to see that there isn't an end in sight, and just like, I'm going to continue to chip away at this thing and continue to learn, but I don't have to have my personal identity and self-worth tied into it, such that if it doesn't succeed, I don't succeed. That's the approach that I want to have with it, which is very different from the approach that this guy that I was talking to you about, that makes $500,000 a year, seems to have. And maybe I won't be successful in the same sense that he is, or in the same sense that having 1,000 followers or 1,000,000 followers or whatever. But for me, just being able to be respectful of that process in that way, and like engage with it in that way, that to me will be a success.
Yeah,
outside of followership, revenue, etc.
I think a lot of things, as far as just the timeline, is not what you first thought it was. You know,
never.
you know, getting, just things take longer than you may originally think.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it requires breaks, maybe it requires stepping away, coming back. It's the same thing with like the art stuff. Like I'm practicing, and then I start getting frustrated. I'll usually put it away, come back. Like sometimes like months, 2 months later, pick up where I left off. Frustration is gone. We keep going. You know what I mean? Like I've learned to take in the human aspect of things a lot more. Where humans, they make mistakes, they get tired, they're not focused, they're dealing with personal issues, with preoccupied, all this kinds of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're not machines that just sort of like do things. Like things happen. We're not always, can't always be on it, can't always, you know what I mean? Like you have to give yourself the flexibility to be a human.
Mm-hmm.
Not, understand that if things aren't working out right now, or if you're really frustrated with what you're doing right now, or like things aren't coming together, or you feel like you're feeling guilty because you can't give the time to it because you're preoccupied with this and that, you know what I mean? Like, can't let that stuff get in the way. It's just a longer road than you thought it was. And because you're a human, it's going to take you longer to get places than you would like.
I think the longer you spend in a certain subject matter, right? So artwork, like you've been chipping away at it for however long, it's easier to have that perspective. And when you pick up something new, like some new business model or some new enterprise, then it's like all of that is out the window. Like, oh yeah, I know that and can relate in that way to art because I've been doing it that long. But now I'm in this new thing, and it's like back to square one. Like you have to relearn everything that you learned about yourself and how you work in the realm of art for this other thing now, for this business thing, or for this relationship thing, or for this whatever. So I think I'm turning a corner and getting to the point where I can just continue to do this thing, even though it's not succeeding in the traditional sense. because this is just what I'm gonna have to do. This is just what we got to do.
Yep. And it's like, we got the first. You take the first steps.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get to the top of the staircase and just take the first steps. So
Mm-hmm.
you start and you work at it and you go and try not to give yourself a deadline as much as you can, and got to push yourself in certain ways, and sometimes you got to be woo way.
Exactly.
Way.
The goal is to whatever endeavor that you are seeking out or taking on is to be able to. I don't know. I'm toast. We're getting close to the end. We're getting close to my bedtime. I'm ready to go to sleep. Before we go, though, Nima and I were kicking around the idea of doing a podcast early in the morning, since we didn't really have. Look at your eyes.
We did what?
So I was texting you saying we could do today by Zoom, or I could come by your place on Thursday and we could do it in person.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, no, Monday Zoom. Let's do it in the evening.
Well, that was just like I didn't want to kick it more. You know what I mean? Like.
Oh, okay.
Like I was ready. I was ready to do it tonight. So let's
just get it done. Let's put it in the can. So
we're still gonna we still have to figure out we haven't posted any of these episodes.
A ton of stuff. I know. There's a lot.
This is episode 4.
This is episode 4.
So
number 3 on Zoom.
Let's make sure that we got episodes up just for the practice of it before episode 6 happens.
5.
Well, 5 can happen.
Gotcha.
But they should be up before 6.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
So what I was going to say is, when you responded and said, no, let's do Monday Zoom, the thought for me was, I wonder what it would be like not meeting in the middle, like at the end of my day and the beginning of your day.
Mm-hmm.
Night man and day boy.
just to see how it goes, kind of thing.
Yeah. What if we did a podcast first thing in the morning when you wake up, and we had to wake you up early? Or vice versa, we do a podcast after you finish work, and I'm like dragging ass in the middle of the night. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think that's interesting.
You like both sides of that, or just the side where you?
Yeah, no, I feel like you gotta do it both. We gotta do it both.
Okay, fair.
At least once, see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be interesting. Interesting dichotomy, and that would illustrate the PM to the AM podcast, whatever our name ends up being.
What are you thinking on that?
Thinking on what?
You like the dusk dawn stuff?
Yeah, I do.
You do? You don't think it's too churchy or whatever?
From dusk to dawn. I like that.
What about I mean, it's the name already may be taken.
I like Nightman and Dayboy.
Nightman and Dayboy? Yeah, that's fine. Are you okay with being Dayboy?
Yeah, I think so.
You don't mind. You don't want to be called Dayman?
No, that doesn't roll off the tongue.
Okay.
Unless you have something other than Nightman.
Let's see if it's taken.
Nightman and Dayboy, or From Dusk to Dawn?
Well, both.
Yeah. All right, you're looking.
I think we're okay for Nightman and Dayboy. Dusk to dawn, or dusk meets dawn?
I guess both.
Okay, well, dusk till dawn is definitely taken. So is dawn to dusk.
Didn't I say something like ashes to ashes, dusk to dusk?
That's too churchy, man.
That's way too churchy.
That's
Fair
way
enough.
too churchy. Dusk meets dawn is, I think, taken.
Looks like we're playing off of Nightman and Dayboy. It's gonna get flipped into Nightman and Gayboy. That's the only thing I can think.
Maybe we change it to Dayman.
It doesn't have the same ring though.
One letter away from Gay Man.
Exactly. Dayman, Gayman. Dayman and Night Dude. Day Dude. Nightman and Day Dude.
Okay.
Also gay dude.
I mean, like, the thing is, like, we're just having like conversation. Like, we're basically having conversations, and conversations tend to just kind of like flow and go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. How do we communicate that it's just like a interesting conversation?
Maybe we drop the PM and AM aspects of it. You know what I mean? Like, look at it from a fresh angle. If we're trying to fit it to this
Like,
theme of one person's night and the other person's day.
like maybe it's like when Nightman meets Day Dude podcast.
Night and day cascades. I like the idea of cascades, waterfall, conversationally. I don't know if that will tie into anything.
Cascade.
Yes, yeah, cascade. Cascading conversations when night meets day. Or maybe
I like that.
maybe
That's not bad.
yeah, maybe cascading
Say it
conversations is
again.
the sub cascading conversations when night
Okay,
meets day.
so I like that.
I think that could be like the sub headline though. Like we
The
still have a
cascading
regular
part.
headline. Yeah.
So it'd be like when day meets night, cascading conversations podcast.
Or just whatever the headline is, and then
Mm.
cascading conversations from night to day, or from night through the night through the day, or something like
I'm worried that would make it seem like it's just like a 24-hour podcast or something.
that. Definitely wouldn't be that. I'm tapped out at 2 hours here.
Wait, so it'd be like whatever the title is. Let's say it's like Dusk Meets Dawn or something like that. It'd be like Dusk
Yeah.
Meets Dawn,
Uh-huh.
cascading conversations
Something.
from an early bird and a night owl.
There we go. Yeah, I think you catch my drift. Whatever
Yeah.
it lands on. But like cascading conversations is that way. It's communicating.
What about early bird and night owl?
There we go.
Like the early bird and the night owl.
The early bird and night owl show. Maybe not that much.
Early bird and the night owl. Cascading conversations podcast. What was the other part of that?
Cascading conversations from dusk till dawn.
I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah. So let's say it out loud again.
The early bird and the night owl, cascading conversations. And well, for all hours of the day, something like that.
There we go. Cascading.
'Cause I say I don't want to use from because
What if we say conversations cascading? Conversations cascading from dusk till dawn. No, that still feels like we're talking the 24-hour thing, right?
yeah.
Cascading conversations. We're so close.
Maybe it's like cascading conversations on like health or like, you know what I mean? Like what we talk about. So like cascading conversations on life, health, and
Yeah, find
life,
something punchy as the third one, right?
yeah, like life, health, and not society or whatever.
Yeah. We'll figure out what our third.
Or cascading conversations on everyday life.
There we go. Every day and night life.
Or cascading on every day and night life.
Yeah.
I feel like nightlife, there may be a sense of like partying and stuff like that, but we kind of do talk about partying.
A little bit, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm cool with that.
We're close. I think we're close.
Let's go with that for now. Let this be our top candidate for the time being, and kind of if you do think of something better or tweaking of this, let me know. I'm probably just gonna make like something like a graphic or something like that with like a title, and then maybe just have like our Instagram
That's cool, man.
handles on it or whatever, and then
Mm-hmm.
so when people on the YouTube, it'll just be like that picture for now, and then the audio, and then over time we can change it or however we want to do it.
I like it, man. That's cool.
I also think that we shouldn't share this with the dudes.
I haven't been saying anything.
I feel like we'd have a little bit more freedom to talk about the friends in our life or whatever if we knew they weren't listening.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like definitely at first if we tell them, they're going to be the only people listening.
Right. And then we're gonna be censoring what we say and how we say and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned it to anybody. I've been trying my best to keep a wrap on it. Don't talk to anybody about this.
I would just don't talk about it in the Discord. Like, I think in the future there's going to have to be some some sense of marketing it or whatever. So probably put it on our social medias. But I think that'll be fine.